the final thing we're going to go over, have you heard of the conspiracy that he's actually Adam Walsh's killer?
No.
I mean, we're talking about John Walsh of America's Most Wanted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know who you're talking about. No.
So let's look at this coincidence stack. This was posted by Degenerate with a J on Reddit 8 years ago. There's a theory that he's actually Adam Walsh's killer. He was in Hollywood, Florida at the time. His roommate, back when he was in the military, was pushing it, if I recall, and had some pretty convincing evidence. John Walsh doesn't believe it, but there is some pretty compelling evidence or coincidence around it. So here's a Palm Beach Post article. All right, so this article going back to March 28, 2010, Palm Beach Post, Adam Walsh murder revisited. The case against Jeffrey Dahmer. Investigating one of the nation's most prominent unsolved murders, a Hollywood detective pitched softball questions and homemade muffins to a serial killer. What? He asked, "Did you kidnap freckled 6-year-old Adam Walsh from a Sears in 1981? Nothing to do with it." Jeffrey Dahmer answered, taking another muffin. The word of Dahmer, a sociopath who stashed several heads in his refrigerator, was instrumental in Hollywood police deciding he was not Adam's killer despite contradictory statements from two witnesses. In December 2008, Chief Chadwick Wagner called a press conference to say deceased drifter Otis Toole, long suspected but never prosecuted, killed Adam. Adam's parents believed it, and Broward prosecutors said Toole was the only valid suspect. Case closed. But had authorities fully explored Dahmer's time in South Florida, they would have found more evidence implicating him than Toole, the Miami Herald found. The evidence includes two additional witnesses who said they saw him at the mall with Adam that day, another who placed Dahmer at the scene of an eerily similar abduction attempt 2 weeks earlier, and people who said he had access to a van fitting an early description of the getaway vehicle. The 29-year-old murder remains among the most vexing unsolved crimes in America, and no one can say with certainty that Dahmer or any of the other My Raid suspects just drift through the case snatched the child. Yet by focusing so heavily on Toole, despite layers of contradictions in his long twisted tale, Hollywood police may have missed leads pointing to Dahmer. According to fresh interviews and a review of thousands of documents. A disheveled stranger. Once I saw that picture of Dahmer, I said, "That's him." Janice Santomassino remembered. "That's who I saw." July 27, 1981 was the first day of Santomassino's vacation, and she drove her daughter and son to the Hollywood Mall on Hollywood Boulevard across from police headquarters. After nearly slamming into the back of a blue van parked illegally outside the West End. Okay, hold on. I gotta stop this here. Going back to how lucky Dahmer was, like you really hit the nail on the head with that one, Jr. Like the amount of sheer luck involved. Now, are we to believe that as early as 1981, Dahmer's in Florida? He's abducting a kid in front of the police station while parked illegally. I don't know what to make of this, Jr. Like, is this really a psyop? It's like again, if you wrote this into a movie, they would be like, no, this is totally unbelievable. He would never even get away with the first murder, and let alone the second, the third, the 17th. After this amount of lunacy, and it's almost like he's trying to get caught. Like, how do you be more obvious?
Yeah. Yeah.
In front of the police station while parked illegal. And in Hollywood, they don't mess around. Like the amount, how quickly you get a ticket in Hollywood. I mean, they might hold the Hollywood Popo might hold some records in how quickly they will ticket you. I mean, come on, man. This isn't some like backwoods hillbilly town. I mean, Again, this is Hollywood. This is Hollywood, Florida, but still, they will ticket you super, super quickly. For anybody that's been to either Hollywood, California, or Hollywood, Florida, there's something about the town name Hollywood where the popo is just really adamant about ticketing people. You know, it's funny. Out of all my time traveling in California and Florida, I think the only time I got tickets were in Hollywood of both places. But anyway,
Clearly, you've never been to downtown Philadelphia, Bruce.
I don't believe I have.
They'll throw a boot on your car.
Oh, well, they do that in New York. They do that in New York as well. Okay. So, what do you make of this? Do you believe this was Dahmer? Well, let's finish the account and then we'll get.
Well, I think it's. Let me just put it to you this way, Bruce. I think this Fruit Loop brought out a lot of Fruit Loops.
Well, also, it's July 27th in the middle of the busiest season when the kids aren't even in school. So he's parked illegally in front of the police. I don't know, JR. I don't know. Is this a psyop? What's going on here?
Well, Bruce, I gotta tell you, I go into these podcasts with an open mind. Like, we've talked about some pretty, extraordinary stuff here on MINDSHOCK. And, this one seemed relatively normal, all things considered, Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, okay, he's a nut, but, it's been on TV, you see crime shows all the time, especially in, the modern era, we are living in now, maybe not, 30 years ago when, there was still an FCC, but, nowadays, there's all kinds of shit, in, media and everything else. So, this compared to, Bigfoot, flat earthing, and shadow people, I was pretty confident that, this was going to be normal. However, I have to say, these are some mind-shocking revelations.
I actually did not know these specific details, but let's continue with the account of Santa Massino. Do you believe in Santa Massino's account?
Well, I mean, that name just sounds purely made up,
Are you saying Santa Massino in Hollywood is made up?
I wonder if that was the inspiration for Santa's helper on The Simpsons.
All right, well, let's continue here. After nearly slamming into the back of a blue van parked illegally outside the west entrance of Sears, she parked and went inside. Santa Massino wanted sandals for her daughter, Lori, but first the girl asked to play an arcade game. Lori approached a game next to a boy wearing an oversized hat, shorts, and a striped shirt and played for 10 minutes, the mother said. On their way out of the toy department, Santa Massino looked down an aisle and saw a disheveled man. She said their eyes met. She grabbed her daughter's hand and walked away. Quote, "He gave me a bad, uncomfortable feeling. It was spooky," end quote, she said. She later heard an intercom call for Adam Walsh. A distraught woman and man were at the customer service desk, but the boy at the video games was gone. So was the creepy guy in the toy aisle. A massive search ensued. Hundreds of volunteers scoured Hollywood streets, and helicopters and boats filled the skies and waterways. Posters of Adam, clad in a Little League uniform and flashing a gap-toothed grin, were plastered everywhere. Watching the news that afternoon, Santa Massino realized that she had seen Adam. She called the police and again the next day, but she never received a return call. Not in 1981, nor in 1996, when she called America's Most Wanted after the show hosted by Adam's father, John Walsh, ran a piece on Adam. The show forwarded the tip to the Hollywood police. Okay, hold on a second, JL. So what do you make of the Hollywood, Florida popo? So she reports this in 1981, right after the fact. Nobody gets back to her. Now, that might not be hard to believe when a guy's parked illegally in front of the police station and a kid's getting abducted. The police don't even follow up on tips on, shady characters right around the boy that got abducted. Then she calls in 1996, America's Most Wanted, said they forwarded the tip to the Hollywood police, and she never heard back. Nobody wants to interview a potential witness who saw the potential guy who took Adam Walsh. Can you make sense of this for me, JR?
I'm still trying to make sense of the fact that she let her 4-year-old play an arcade game. I mean, even in the eras of arcade games, Bruce, like, do you ever remember a 4-year-old playing an arcade game?
I do remember Street Fighter being quite popular with a 4-year-old.
Hmm. Well, hey. But getting back to like the question, like of this like ridiculously far-fetched fairy tale, it's very possible that like she did see something, but I mean, it could also be she was trying to jump on the gravy train as
No,
well.
but
I mean,
not really. I mean, so she called once or twice in '81, and then she didn't bother again until she saw America's Most Wanted. So that doesn't seem that way to me. It's not like she was bad. It's not like she could have went into the police station and filed a report instantly herself.
but why didn't she?
I'm assuming she assumed the police were competent and they would return her phone call.
Bruce, which police officer was competent in like any of this storyline
Well,
whatsoever?
I thought you were going to say any police, any police anyway.
That's a different podcast.
Okay, hold on a second. So there's an illegally parked van in front of the police station across from the mall there, or at the mall across from the police station. A woman potentially saw a disheveled, scary looking guy in the vicinity of the boy that goes missing. And nobody seems to care. This is kind of weird. All right, so she was contacted again in 2009 by a writer and shown a picture of Dahmer. She said he was the man she saw. Unreturned calls. Others say they also contacted police in the days after Adam's abduction without reply. They include Jenny Warren, interviewed by state attorney's investigator Phil Mundy in 1996 after a media lawsuit prompted the release of the case file. She was dismissed after she said she didn't see Toole, she said. Warren told the Miami Herald she saw Adam with his mother, Reeve, that day. She also noticed a man at the video games wearing beige khakis like army fatigues. He stood next to Adam and stared at the screen. Warren says she could have picked out the man in fatigues had the investigator placed his picture in the lineup with Toole. I wish my mind could take a picture because it would be him, Dahmer. Interviewed recently, Mundy had little recollection of the Warren interview. He did recall broader discussions among authorities about the problems Dahmer witnesses would have posed should Toole be prosecuted. So wait a second. The police all want to go after this guy, Toole, who the witnesses say it's not him, or it's another guy who happens to look like Dahmer. Now, here's the thing. There's plenty of serial killers out there. I don't necessarily buy that these are all people out for attention and they simply picked Dahmer because he was popular. There's plenty of other popular serial killers. There's no reason for them to latch on to Dahmer.
True. That's true, Bruce.
So, interviewed recently, Mundy had little recollection of the Warren interview, especially if these witnesses didn't talk to each other. Because if these witnesses don't know each other, and they're all saying it's Dahmer or a guy who looks like Dahmer who does not look like Toole, I mean, that's pretty damning evidence there. I mean, obviously it's not conclusive in any way, but you would think it would at least warrant some kind of follow-up, some kind of real investigation.
You would, but I mean, like, every cop in like this entire storyline has, followed standard procedure, except for like that one fireman that like wanted to help the guy with a hole in his head bleeding from his genitals.
Yeah, but he's not. That wasn't a cop though.
He was probably fired for being an outcast.
Oh, supposedly those 2 cops were fired.
I would hope so. Like, at least for the sake of that guy's family. Like.
All right. Anyway, what do we got here? In 1991, Dahmer emerged as one of the nation's most infamous killers after his arrest on charges involving decapitation, necrophilia, and cannibalism. He had 11 severed heads in his Milwaukee apartment. Do you think it's coincidental that Dahmer just happened to be, like, the small amount of time that Dahmer is in Florida, it just happened to be during one of the most infamous child disappearances? Not just
I will say that that's a convenient coincidence.
Hold on. Not just a disappearance, but Adam Walsh is, he was decapitated. This is a go-to for Dahmer.
Yeah, but like he also doesn't necessarily fit like Dahmer's like usual age profile either.
That's true, but some argue that Dahmer has many more victims that nobody knows about.
That's true, but like normally child predators stick to child predators, though.
Well, maybe. Well, Dahmer doesn't seem.
Or well, like wait,
Does Dahmer,
child predators stick to children?
Does Dahmer seem normal to you in any sense of the word, even within the scope of serial killers?
No.
I mean, this guy is an outlier among outliers. I mean, can you honestly say there's been another Dahmer? I mean, this guy's pretty unique. Call him what you will. He's pretty unique, even among his peer group of serial killers.
Yes. Yes, he is.
For some of those present in the Sears the day of Adam's disappearance, the photo of Dahmer reignited a 10-year-old memory. They recognized him as the man they saw in the store that day Adam vanished. Among them was then Miami Herald pressman Willis Morgan. He told police he was in the Radio Shack in the Hollywood Mall that day and felt threatened when a stranger aggressively approached him. He followed the man into the Sears toy department before turning away. That man was Dahmer, Morgan now told police. So these aren't just random nobodies seeking fame. I mean, this is an actual somebody working for the Miami Herald. I mean, there seem to be quite a few witnesses that said they saw Dahmer. Now, this guy doesn't even claim to have seen Adam Walsh. He just claims to have seen Dahmer in the same area that others saw Dahmer and Adam Walsh.
Yeah.
Bill Bowen, an Alabama TV producer, reached the same conclusion independently. He had reported seeing a man lift a struggling protesting child and sling him into the back of a blue van illegally parked outside Steve. Hold on a second. Is Dahmer, so Dahmer, if this is Dahmer parked illegally and in broad daylight in the middle of the summer in a popular Florida mall, physically assaulted and grabbed a struggling child and put him into the back of a van while parked illegally across the street from the police station.
All right, that's true, but even John Walsh has said that the police completely botched
No, but let's forget about the police botching for a moment. Let's just talk about Dahmer and his choices here. He has a blue van parked illegally that's somehow in the way of other cars where they're almost hitting it. Could he draw any more possible attention to himself?
But see, that basically fits Dahmer's profile.
It does. It really does. I mean, Dahmer seems to go out of his way to try to be caught, and somehow he's not caught. Was this some kind of game that developed in Dahmer's sick mind where he was going to try to be as reckless as possible? Maybe he poisoned himself on purpose.
Well, okay. See, the only problem that I have with this so far is that and I guess it's because we'll never know, but he didn't necessarily lure Adam with $50 with the promise of drinking beers.
How do you know? Maybe he offered $50 worth of arcade money.
Yeah, but wasn't he 5 years old or something?
Regardless, $50 is like a fortune to a little kid. At least
True.
back then. At least back then before inflation. A little kid probably wouldn't bat an eye to $50 today.
Well, I think it was $50 was pretty decent back then anyway. I mean, it wasn't bacon $1.89 a pound back then.
Yeah, $50 back then was like a couple $100 today. So, okay, so some of the conclusions, some of these witnesses are actually prominent individuals. I mean, this is a TV produced. I mean, these are people that presumably would not want to be ridiculed in the public for making false statements.
All right, Bruce. I will give you that, him being illegally parked, I mean, the only thing is he wasn't drunk per se, but again, we don't know.
How do you know?
We don't.
It actually kind of sounds like he was. It kind of sounds like he was. In order for because would a non-drunk person do this unless they were trying to be caught? Do you think Dahmer had some kind of weird compulsion where he wanted to be caught even after the first murder, and he did everything he could to be caught?
Well, it might be part of him getting off too. I think that that's part of it. I don't think it was enough for him to just kill people. It wasn't enough. I mean, there are serial killers where they just kill them and then whatever. He had to dismember them. He had to clean up after all of that.
It sounds like he was using his chainsaw with complete impunity, without a worry or care in the world, in the middle of a crowded apartment.
Yeah, well, that still doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
I mean, come on.
I still don't understand. Like if you hear a noise like that, I mean, that's pretty obscure. I mean, unless they just thought he had the TV really loud. But even then, like a chainsaw on like the TV,
No,
like
a chainsaw would drown out any TV easily.
yeah.
Not to mention with the amount of bodies he dismembered, I mean, he would have had to be gunning that chainsaw fairly often on a fairly frequent basis. And it just sounds like he couldn't care less who hurt him.
Well, how often did he oil or clean the chainsaw?
I don't know. But let's continue here. On a
I mean, did he
suggestion,
clean it off like after like each dismember? I mean, like, did he wear any kind of like specialized clothing? Like, I mean, you would think there would be some sort of blunt spatter or something in the apartment if he was using a chainsaw.
I mean, those are all good questions. I mean, judging from his MO, I'm surprised he didn't hire a cleaning company to go clean it for him, like without actually removing any of the bodies.
Well, he might have. His apartment really wasn't that dirty.
All right, well, let's continue here. So this TV producer, Bill Bowen, after seeing the news coverage out of Wisconsin, he too was convinced Dahmer was the man he saw. On a suggestion from FBI agent Neil Purdell, who interviewed Dahmer after his Wisconsin convictions and thought he had tacitly admitted killing Adam through his overly fervent denials, Father John Walsh urged detectives to visit Dahmer. Dahmer told Detective Jack Hoffman he came to Miami in March '81 after his early discharge from the Army due to alcoholism while in Germany. He said he had no vehicle, never went to Hollywood, and worked long hours at a Collins Avenue sub shop. I mean, what do you think the visitors to that sub shop thought after they found out that Dahmer worked at the sub shop that they frequented?
Um, I would see. If I were that guy, I would have gotten my stomach pumped just because.
Yeah. Well, what if it was like 20 years later you found out?
I would still have gotten my stomach pumped, or at least chewed charcoal.
Fair enough. He said he never killed children, but didn't want to rot in prison. And he would admit to Adam's murder if it meant a death sentence. So hold on a second. So Dahmer said if they would promise to kill him, he would admit that he killed Adam. So does that sound like a guilty or innocent man, or is it typical Dahmer hijinks where you can't tell either way because he's so crazy? If he was innocent, he might say that, and if he was guilty, he might say that.
Okay, so here's the thing with that. I would think that, like, you know, he would have admitted to that right away if he had done something like that. I think probably the reason why, like, he did that was it gave him some sort of high because he knew that he would never be able to, like, you know, dismember or kill anyone anymore. So, like, that was kind of like a last-ditch, like, power trip for him to get off on that.
Well,
Like,
hold on a
control.
second. Why wouldn't he be able to kill people in prison? It happens all the time. Like,
Well, because he was in solitary confinement.
was he not during his work detail when he was killed? He could have killed somebody else as well.
Well, that was, like, after, like, you know, he bargained that. Like,
all right. Well, anyway, let's continue on here. If Jeffrey Dahmer had committed the Adam Walsh homicide, he would have confessed to this crime, Hoffman wrote. Dahmer was killed in prison in '94. The blue van. Had Hoffman followed up on Dahmer's statement, and the other thing that's kind of weird, what kind of detective are you where you're just going to take a homicidal, sociopathic, psychopathic, psychotic serial killer's word for something?
let me ask you a question, Bruce. What agency only, like, has one detective talk to a fucking psychopathic, rageaholic serial killer that's dismembered people? Like,
well, also
you know, and take his word for it.
I mean, he's one of the highest profile of all time at this point in history.
Well, especially back then. You know what I mean? Like,
even now, most people put him in the top 10.
Yeah, I know, but, like, back then, it was so shocking. I mean, you gotta remember, Bruce, there was an FCC back then.
Yeah, before internet, too, mostly. Before widespread internet. Okay. So the blue van, had Hoffman followed up on Dahmer's statement, he would have found that Dahmer lied about his hours and was often sent home due to drinking, according to his boss, Ken Halpert Sr. As an employee of Sunshine Subs, Dahmer had access. I mean, when you think of sunshine, is Dahmer's visage the first thing that comes up?
Well, like, my mind is going to be permanently marred now, Bruce, but, like, no, it wasn't.
Dahmer had access to a blue delivery van, according to 8 people. So 8 people verified that Dahmer had access to a blue van. Not just any van, but a blue van. A similar van, either the same van or a similar van spotted in the Hollywood Mall. For months after Adam's abduction, police stopped blue vans across the state based on sketchy statements of 10-year-old Timothy Pottenberg, who said he'd seen Adam pulled into a blue van outside Sears. Hoffman eventually threw out the blue van theory, citing time discrepancies in Pottenberg's story. But there was also that other guy, like the TV producer from Alabama, who also saw the kid being put into a blue van. Okay, but Santa Massino said she saw a blue van parked illegally outside Sears' west entrance, as did Bowen. Another dismissed witness, Philip Lohr, said he saw a blue van parked illegally outside the toy department around the time of Adam's abduction. Lohr remembered seeing a man carrying a struggling freckled kid out of the Sears toy department exit, although he didn't call the police until 1997. So he saw a kid being abducted in 1981, and then he calls the police in 1997.
Yeah. Yeah. Does it specify whether or not he saw, America's Most Wanted?
It does not. It does not. But that's probably a safe bet. But so I don't know that. I mean, come on. But here's the thing. Even if you want to dismiss this witness, I mean, how many witnesses are you going to dismiss? There's like a half a dozen witnesses who specifically saw the same thing.
Well, that goes back to John Walsh saying that, they botched, the investigation. Which might explain, why John Walsh seems like he's, really, very grumpy in his, older years.
Well,
but,
wouldn't you be if that happened to your son?
Probably.
Not just that, but Dahmer is a suspect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at that time it wasn't, the guy that worked at Sunshine, so.
Wow, what an ominous name. Adam's body was never recovered. A severed head identified as Adam's was found August 10th, 1981 in a canal on the northbound side of the Florida Turnpike near mile marker 130. 2 Publix truck drivers called the next day, August 11th, to report seeing a blue van parked off the turnpike near mile marker 131 just after midnight on August 7th. Okay, hold on a second. So guys report a blue van. See, blue van is actually quite rare. In most of these cases, it's like white, gray, green, as in the case of the Springfield 3, the 3 missing women's case that we cover on MindShock. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you check that out. I mean, a blue van is not the most common type of delivery or moving van. Blue is not as popular a color as like white or gray or even green.
Yeah. That's true. That's very true.
Dennis Bubb, with 2 B's, saw a man with a flashlight down near a canal and radioed Clifford Ramey following behind. Ramey looked to see if the driver had mechanical problems and saw the man leaning through an open sliding door and fumbling around with a bucket, he said. He didn't notice a flat tire, and the hood wasn't up. Both say they talked to the Hollywood police and were told the incident had nothing to do with the Adam Walsh murder. Like, how would they know? Like, what? Did they solve it already? Like, they get a tip and they're like, oh, no, that has nothing to do with it. And then they ignore all the witnesses. I mean, okay, this is getting really unbelievable here. Like, not only, see, if they just ignored this account, that would be one thing. But they definitively stated, as if they had the case solved, that this incident had nothing to do with the Adam Walsh murder.
Yeah.
And that's where his head happens to be found. But it has nothing to do with the murder, though. Can you make sense of this, JR?
No. I can't make sense. I mean, like, this is so beyond, like, far, like, ridiculous. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like, there's so many, like, I mean, I kind of believe the people that think it's, like, this, like, red herring. Oh, by the way, Sunshine Subs is permanently closed.
I wonder why.
It's now Glamour Unisex Salon, Dominican hairstylist.
Is the Dahmer cut popular there?
I don't know. I don't know.
Gramey's glance was brief, but he thought the van had no front passenger seat, he told the Herald. That doesn't sound shady at all. The shop's blue van, former store co-owner Darlene Hill told the Broward State Attorney's Office in 2007 had a milk crate for a passenger seat. So a van which seems to match the sub shop's blue van is the one that's seen in the vicinity of Adam Walsh's head turning up. Do you find that coincidental, JR?
I guess.
Because I would guess most vans have a passenger seat. Isn't it illegal to not have a front passenger seat?
Well, no, it's illegal for adults to sit in the rear without occupying, like, the front passenger seat without a taxi license.
All right. Another Dahmer connection may be found in the report of a near abduction in a North Palm Beach Sears exactly 2 weeks before Adam's disappearance. What is this obsession with Sears? Like, this guy just goes around to Sears looking for kids to, like, what is it with Sears? Like, it's not like there aren't other stores.
Yeah.
So, at the time, investigators believed it was strikingly similar to the Adam Walsh abduction and had two witnesses create a composite. Investigators dismissed the link after speaking with a Sears security guard who said he'd chased the shoplifting boy around the time and believed the sketch looked like himself. Okay, hold on a second. The security guard is saying that the sketch looked like him, but did it really, though? Because if it didn't, and he said it did, what does that mean? Does that mean he's covering for somebody else, like Dahmer? Or is this some kind of weird MK Ultra psyop, where they're trying to get Dahmer to do certain things to see the public and police response, and they couldn't believe how incompetent everybody was?
Repeat it again? I'm sorry, man. Like, what?
Do you believe that this was some kind of MK Ultra operation where they had Dahmer do these outlandish things to see how he would be caught, and he wasn't actually caught, and they were just, trying to find metrics on, like, public and police responses to abductions or serial killers, and they were just using Dahmer as some kind of, like, MK Ultra subject?
Well, honestly, Bruce, like, normally, like, you ask me these questions about MK Ultra, and I either tell you that I'm not qualified to answer, or, I'm not going to get into the specifics, or I don't know simply. In this case, I wouldn't be surprised. It's really not surprising, like, if like it came out like 100 years from now, which it probably will, that like, it really wouldn't surprise me if, like, MK Ultra was trying to find some sort of, like, random matrices. I mean, like,
all right,
like, that's we're going to discuss that more in the Jonestown podcast. But yeah.
Well, actually, we have to discuss it more later in this podcast, because you'll see this is the most mind-shocking Dahmer information to be discussed thus far in any podcast or documentary ever, because this is mind-shocking. We go down every single rabbit hole. But tell me this doesn't sound suspicious to you. Hoffman wrote that Jane and Matthew Huvoris, the witnesses, agreed that the security guard was the man they'd seen, as did Terry Keaton, the child who was nearly kidnapped, and his mother. So this is what Hoffman wrote. That's not necessarily what happened. That's what Hoffman, the investigator, wrote. In 2010, they were reached, and Jane Huvoris said she told Hoffman that neither she nor her son believed it was a security guard because he wasn't in uniform. So why is Hoffman writing down that they said it was him when they're saying it wasn't? Does this smell like a cover-up, JR?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds either that or, like, Dahmer, like, I mean, the fact that the guy didn't just play the lottery, like, is, like, really, like, I mean, like he missed a square opportunity right there.
Well,
I
hold
mean,
on a second. Hold on a second. If he is an MK Ultra subject, and MK Ultra has their hooks into all these police officers and all these investigators, they could cover him for him no matter how incompetent he is. And is that what we're seeing? Because could this all happen naturally, like illegally parking across from the police station and not getting caught despite tons of witnesses in broad daylight, and yet he still doesn't get caught?
I
Like
mean,
how?
it could be some sort of like they were experimenting with either some sort of like Manchurian type situation, or they had like a new like mind control drug. I mean, maybe that was why he drilled into people's heads and stuck like boiling oil or
Yo,
hydrochloric acid in his head. Like,
whoa. Was Dahmer unwitting? So he didn't know what they did to him in MK Ultra, but it was in his subconscious, and that's what he was
right.
carrying out.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something like that.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Not to mention like the need to like make all these people submit to his will. I mean, that sounds
Yeah.
like some serious psychological damage there. Is he just repeating the abuse that was done to him within the MK Ultra program?
Yeah. It's possible. I mean,
I,
like, it would make more sense than, like how the story reads now.
this I gotta
It
say,
would,
this is
it
I have
would,
to say.
though.
I mean, I thought it was strange that Bundy was just randomly escaping from police stations. His story has nothing on Dahmer.
No, no, it really doesn't. Like I said, like, we talk about the flat earth, we talk about shadow people, we talk about Bigfoot, we talk about everything. But, this story is, more far-fetched than pretty much anything we've ever discussed
Well,
on Mind Shack.
believe it or not, there's more.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
So, okay. Keaton, 10 in 1981, and his mother, Ginger Pantel, also told the Herald the man in Sears was not a security guard. It was Dahmer. Keaton said, quote, in my heart, I truly believe that was the guy who tried to get me that day, end quote. Now, to be fair, if you're a traumatized 10-year-old, a guy who's trying to abduct you, I mean, it seems like that image would be seared into your brain permanently for the rest of your life. Would you ever forget the face of the guy who, especially if this kid led a normal life, he's never had any other types of situations like this, it seems like the face of the guy who tried to get him would be forever burned into his brain.
It seems that way, but I mean, whether or not that actually was possible or, happened, that's a matter of just conjecture.
Well, they should
Like,
hypnotize him to confirm. Okay, check this out. Hoffman did not respond to an interview request. Are you surprised by that? That the investigator Hoffman that wrote all these things, as soon as someone double checks his work and it doesn't check out, he's denying interview requests. Charles.
well,
Morton,
that's very convenient, isn't it, Bruce?
yeah. Charles Morton Jr., Chief Assistant State Attorney in Broward County, noted in a letter to the Herald that the new witness accounts add intrigue and mystery to Adam Walsh's tragic death, but are problematic. The delayed Dahmer identifications would raise serious legal and moral questions in a potential prosecution of Dahmer, he wrote. Slipshod Records. It's an interesting name. But all
Oh well, all the names in this whole podcast, they came from a random name generator, from the early '90s.
But all four Dahmer witnesses say they contacted police in 1981, though police who admitted to shoddy record keeping. Whoa, okay. So they flat out admitted their own record keeping is shoddy. What does that tell you? Isn't that rare that a police department admits that they're shoddy?
Especially with their records, that could just possibly open up the dispute of every record.
Well, check this out. They can't because they admitted to shoddy record keeping in the initial weeks of the investigation, have no record of their tips. Also, Warren wasn't shown Dahmer's picture in a lineup in '96, and Santa Messino was never even contacted by authorities. And though police and the Walsh family say authorities thoroughly investigated Dahmer even after that interview over muffins, documents suggest otherwise. Isn't that a weird? The phrasing of this whole article is weird. Like, yeah, he was eating muffins at the interview, but why are they constantly referencing the fact that muffins were involved? Because couldn't they have just said even Dahmer after he was interviewed? Why the obsession over the muffins?
Well, it could be. Next door to the Sunshine Sub Shop, there used to be an Otis Spunkmeyer. It could be that, like, they had something to do with it as well.
All right, a report obtained by the Herald shows police did investigate Dahmer's time in South Florida for 2 weeks. The investigation began after a writer contacted them in 2002 with the names of people who remember Dahmer and said he had access to a blue van. Detective John Kern spoke to Sunshine Sub's 1981 night manager, Ken Hopper Jr., and Michelle Pelletier, the owner of parent shop Mr. Pizza. Pelletier said he didn't remember Dahmer and only had trucks. Hopper Jr. remembered Dahmer, but no blue van, he said. So wait a second. There's 8 employees that can verify the blue van, yet Hopper Jr. is saying no blue van. What does that tell you?
I don't know, Bruce. I don't know.
After a few dead-end records checks, Kearns concluded that this investigation has not established any link. He didn't contact other potential witnesses. Darlene Hill says Pelletier did own a blue van, which she used herself to move furniture. So she's saying the Mitzer, not only did the Sunshine Subs place had a blue van, but also Pelletier, who owns Mr. Pizza. She said it belonged to Mr. Pizza. You could walk in anytime and pick up the keys, Hill said. It was absolutely chaos, and people would take the van. Sometimes maybe they'd bring it back that day, and maybe they wouldn't.
Mr. Pizza's still in business.
That sounds That sounds
in the same shopping center.
That sounds kind of sketchy. Like, would you? Yeah. Anyway, Sunshine Chubb's manager Hopper Sr., who gave Dahmer a job, also remembered a blue delivery van used for Mr. Pizza, and he recalled the day Dahmer showed him the body of a dead man behind the store. What? So Dahmer showed this guy a dead body, and coincidentally was not responsible for it. Wait. Yeah. Like, what was the story? Like a homeless guy just randomly died there, and Dahmer decided to show him. Like, what was the story that he used? Okay, hold on a second. If there's a dead body anywhere around Dahmer, like, what are the chances that Dahmer's not responsible? I'm just asking.
I don't know. It's slim to none, Bruce.
Dahmer's name is on a police report. The incident 20 days before, 20 days before Dahmer disappeared. There's actually.
Oh wait, one thing before we wrap this up. Mr. Pizza now also makes subs, so maybe they just folded the business into Mr. Pizza, or Mr. Pizza's just like become like maybe that was the original location.
Do you think Dahmer was ever Employee of the Month?
I don't know.
I guess it depends on how bad everybody else is drinking and drug problems.
Let me go to their About Us page. Like, with the way this story's going, you never know.
So Dahmer's name is actually on a police report. I mean, this guy's doing everything possible to get caught, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well, again, I don't think that's, like, whether it's MK Ultra or whether, it's obvious, like, he wanted to, like, he was cheating it every time.
The medical examiner's office did rule the death by natural causes. Yo, what are the chances a dead body shows up around Dahmer and the death was of natural causes? I mean, what do you think the statistical chances are?
I find that difficult to believe. It sounds like maybe like that's where like Dahmer first like played around with his boiling oil or boiling water into the bloodstream theory.
Did government officials working for MK Ultra just tell the medical examiner what to put down?
Or like they were the medical examiner to begin with.
Yeah. If the police called, I would talk to them, Hoppert said. Kearns, now retired, had no comment. The state attorney's office also conducted a brief investigation in 2007, interviewing Hill and Pelletier. Prosecutor Morton interviewed Morgan, but nothing came of it. Then in 2008, Morton and the state attorney's office learned that Hollywood police wanted to close the case. So in 2008, they learned that the Hollywood police wanted to close this 1981 case.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it was a brief investigation because the fucking Illuminati showed up and told them to close the investigation.
Their man, Otis Toole. Toole's shifting stories. Toole, a pyromaniac, storytelling drifter, surfaced as a suspect in So hold on a second. We have a pyromaniac versus a known serial killer. Like, who's more likely to commit this crime?
You know, it's interesting how, like, you know, they all kind of found each other. Like, what's going down at Mr. Pizza? Like, you know what I mean?
This sounds like it could have been like a soap.
Well, it was a soap, Bruce. Like, you know, it obviously makes for good entertainment. Like, you know, to this day, it's like, you know, they just did a documentary on Netflix.
Well, I don't think it focused on this particular aspect, but Toole, a pyromaniac storytelling drifter, surfaced as a suspect October 10th, 1983.
They only have a certain amount of hours to work with, Bruce.
Yeah, check this out. Toole, see if this is coincidental or not. Toole, a pyromaniac storytelling drifter, surfaced as a suspect October 10th, 1983, the same day a TV movie aired about Adam Walsh. Sitting in a Duval County jail cell, he told a Brevard County detective he had gotten into mischief in Fort Lauderdale. So he didn't even get the city right. The detective mentioned it to Jacksonville detective J.W. Buddy Terry. that
name generator is really like working overtime, like when they came up with these names.
That was a day before investigators around See, this is the thing, though. If you wrote this as an actual movie, you would get rejected by every single movie company.
Oh, yeah.
Except maybe Asylum. But
well, I mean, you know, like, okay, but like, we're gonna do a separate podcast on Asylum.
Can you imagine the antics? Everything from his first kill to all the exploits and keeping some kind of slave in the military without being noticed, to like going to Florida and all this stuff going on here, committing this crime in broad daylight while illegally parked in front of the police station in front of tons of witnesses. I mean, showing your boss a dead body.
Well, you know, the thing is like with this, it's like, it's not even a matter of like, you know, are they? It's you want shadow people to be involved in a story like this.
Maybe they are. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised. But let's continue here. Let's continue. So the same day he sees a TV movie about Adam, I guess he's not paying attention because he thinks it happened in Fort Lauderdale instead of Hollywood. So he doesn't even get the details right. So this was a day before investigators around the country flocked to Louisiana to learn if Toole and one-eyed lover Henry Lee Lucas had killed in their jurisdiction. Together, the duo had admitted to hundreds of murders, though today nearly all the confessions are considered inconclusive or outright lies. So hold on a second. We have Toole and his one-eyed lover, Henry Lee Lucas. So we have this arsonist and his one-eyed lover who lied about hundreds of murders, but somehow they're telling the truth about Walsh. And on the other hand, we have Dahmer. Like, who's more likely to have done this? Like, what do you think?
I don't know, Bruce. What do you think?
I mean, this is a tough one. Check out the eloquence in the vernacular of this article. Less than 2 weeks later, Hollywood police called a Friday night press conference to announce Toole as Adam's killer. The Toole and Lucas murders, quote, make Charles Manson look like Huckleberry Finn, end quote, said Assistant Chief Leroy Hessler.
Well, if he's Huckleberry Finn, I wonder who Lamb Chop play along. I wonder what, like, that would be. Like...
Okay, hold on a second, though. Charles Manson never actually killed anybody himself, did he?
Not that we're aware of. Now, he did live at Spawn Ranch, which it was it was kind of in the desert. So, I mean, there's possibilities that
But
there's
I'm talking about confirmed kills like Dahmer.
No.
And not only that, but wasn't Charles Manson part of MK Ultra again? Are the police here dropping a hint in their Friday night press conference? How often do police call Friday night press conferences? Like date night press conferences, really?
I mean, football is Monday night. I mean, I guess, police, it's Friday night.
No, I actually don't know the statistic. Is there anyone out there who knows the percentage of police press conferences called not Friday afternoon, but Friday night? Police said Toole knew details only the killer could and led them to the site where Adam's head was found. They planned to charge Toole on Monday, Hessler said. But when police met with Broward State Attorney Michael Satz, S-A-T-Z, no charges followed. Toole's statements show why prosecutors would be uncomfortable. He said he did it, and then he said he didn't. Then he did, then he didn't, then he did. Also, keep in mind, he confessed to hundreds of murders that he didn't actually commit, also. He couldn't, and all of this was brought about because he was watching, he was allegedly, the same day that he decided to randomly confess to this was the day an Adam Walsh TV movie was airing.
I have a question, Bruce, just real quick, not to get off topic, but if you've got someone that's obviously a compulsive liar, why are they wasting tax dollars continually listening to him, killing hundreds of people?
That's a good question, JR. I cannot answer that. So also, he couldn't initially identify Adam, and he said he took the boy around January 1st and said Lucas chopped off Adam's head. But Lucas was jailed in Maryland when Adam was kidnapped. Also, detectives showed him pictures of Adam's severed head and the canal scene where it was found, including the Florida Turnpike mile marker, before asking him to lead them to the crime scene.
Well, maybe that's why he, admitted to, so many murders. He liked looking at, the evidence.
That's a good theory. This sick bastard, if that's the only way, because this was, back in this time period, they didn't have that many people. The internet wasn't as popular. So,
Yeah.
maybe he had some kind of, sick fixation or sick fetish about, wanting original prints and not looking at a screen.
Yeah. Well, this was also, the era before on demand, right? So, once it aired, it aired.
Yeah, hold on a second. So, what do you think is more likely? This guy who's an arsonist and falsely confessed to hundreds of murders. On the day that an Adam Walsh TV movie happens to be airing, he suddenly says he's responsible for Adam Walsh's kidnapping and death, even though he can't identify him. And he stated that his one-eyed lover is the one who decapitated him, who happened to be imprisoned in Maryland at the time. He got the date wrong. He couldn't identify anything. And he was...
Not to mention that one eye he had must have been some panavision, for him to, be able to, do all that with,
Oh, man. So, what's more likely, that this guy and his one-eyed lover did this, or Dahmer?
Gee, I still don't know.
And so why would they show him pictures of the crime scene with the mile marker? And then
I don't know, they never do that. Even, I've watched, dozens and dozens and dozens of these things. Even ones that are botched, they never do that.
Yeah, but let me ask you this question. Is this a bridge too far in terms of believing that this level of incompetence is possible? Is this, again, they're trying to get Dahmer off the hook, so MK Ultra operatives pull some strings to get these detectives to use this Toole guy as a patsy?
Bruce, we were a bridge too far 2.5 hours ago.
That's true. But at our current juncture, at the current bridge, what do you think? Because is it possible that they're really this incompetent? They're going to show the guy the mile marker and then ask them to take them to the crime scene. I also find it kind of strange that he just happens to confess the day they're airing a TV movie about Adam Walsh? I mean, is that a little too coincidental for you, Jr.?
Yeah, that's kind of coincidental. What's also coincidental is like they admitted to the fact that like they showed him the picture of the with the mile marker. Like why would you admit something like that?
Well,
Like even if you did it.
maybe they didn't admit it. Maybe they like interviewed like other detectives in the station that saw that happen.
Hmm. All right, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that, but just this once.
After Tool, well, they also freely admitted that they have shoddy paperwork and they somehow lost all the paperwork for the tip.
Yeah, like this is in Florida, like land of like the stand your ground laws. Like you'd think that they would keep like a little bit better records here. Like
Yeah. After Tool's first recantation that night, Detective
there's gonna be a lot of comments on that one.
You know, also, is it common for someone to confess, recant, then confess again, then recant again, then confess again and recant again? Because I've actually never heard of it happening that many times.
I don't know. Like is it like like standard procedure for like them to use that much government resources on like one person confessing and recanting?
With a history of hundreds of false confessions.
So it's like you've got that guy, and then you've got Dom. Like, let me tell you something. Like, see, like this is the post-blow era, though. That like this is all happening. Right?
Well, you know what else is kind of weird? So they have like so if they have two photographs, Dahmer, the witnesses are like, yeah, we saw Dahmer, and then like, but there's this other guy. Oh, it doesn't look like him. Oh, okay, we don't need you as a witness then, because like.
Yeah, maybe they were just all on cocaine. Like, that would actually explain a lot away.
Well, here's another question. Do you believe Hollywood, Florida was trying to catch up on the cocaine snorting quota that Hollywood, California had accomplished? They were trying to break Hollywood, California's record in Florida. Like, they didn't want to be one-upped by all the coke heads in California.
Well, I mean, that's possible, Bruce, but, like, to be quite honest, like, the way that, like, the Colombian drug lords were, like, utilizing Florida at that point in history, I would say that they were probably the ones to beat on that note. And, like, they were the barometer. They were what every other state was being compared to. Or, like, they were the ones to beat.
All right, let's save that for the Cocaine Barometers podcast. At this point, let's continue here. So after Toole's first of many recantations, Detective Terry spent 12 minutes alone with him, and then Toole again confessed.
Oh, and by the way, not to change the subject again, but like we have to also cover that in the Miami Vice podcast because that was being shot at this particular point in history.
Yeah, but hold on a second. So after his first recantation, this particular detective is left alone with him for 12 minutes, and all of a sudden Toole is again confessing. Do you want to take a guess what transpired in those 12 minutes of unsupervised time? Okay. I mean, we can be safe to say that protocol is not followed at that department. So Toole later signed an informal. Okay, no, you're not gonna. If you think that was crazy, I don't even know if I can read this next part. You better brace yourself, JR, because if you think we've been a bridge too far for several hours already, you're not going to believe this next part. Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to repeat the previous part just to get the flow. After Toole's first recantation that night, Detective Terry spent 12 minutes alone with him, and Toole again confessed. Toole later signed an informal story rights deal with Detective Terry. So there's story rights deals in the middle of these beatings and confessions from a guy who already falsely confessed hundreds of times to hundreds of murders. So he thinks he's going to strike gold here with this false confession. Like maybe that 12 minutes was like they were going over like Hollywood, California paperwork. So Terry insisted it was a joke, but he was demoted when his superiors found out. Investigators never found Adam's body in the myriad places Toole said he disposed of the remains and had trouble vouching for his own whereabouts in late July 1981. So apparently there was a whole bunch of places that he picked that he said where the body was, and it was not in any of those places. I mean, do you see Toole as a viable suspect at this point in time, or a guy more concerned with story rights deals?
Well, considering that, like, you know, that guy had more stories about people like getting murdered that he didn't commit than, like, you know, say like the Hardy Boys or like the Goosebump novel series. I'd say that you know, he was looking at a gold mine. Like, you know, he thought, like, you know, I mean, like, it was probably he thought he could just get one story after another from that guy.
My opinion, as is most everybody from the city of Hollywood, is that he did not do this killing. Then Lieutenant J.B. Smith concluded in 1984. We can't confirm one thing he has said. So is this the sole competent officer in that department? Because that's the only thing that's made sense this entire time.
You know, he was fired for being an outcast.
His last name is Smith, though, so like we don't really know like if this guy even existed. Today, Ron Hickman, one of two original.
Back to the name generator.
Well, actually, he might not be the only competent one. Today, Ron Hickman, one of two original lead case detectives, agrees. Bogus, he said. So there's two detectives that call bogus. One of them called it in 1984, but this one's not calling it until 2010. So in the 80s, there was only a single guy willing to go on record, Lieutenant J.B. Smith. And then in 2010...
Which, he sounds like a complete fabrication. Like, you know, like
But what
the
about
name.
What about Ron Hickman? But this... Okay, all right, hold on. Let's continue. We're not even done yet. Bogus...
Who uses the word bogus in 2010?
Bogus no longer. Bogus is a great word. I'm surprised you don't use it as much. But when Wagner...
Maybe I will. Maybe I will.
But when Wagner closed the case in 2008, he told the media investigators past and present believed Toole was guilty and said police had a vast amount of circumstantial evidence to prosecute Toole before his death in 96. He declined an interview. What? I guess he doesn't want to list the vast amount of evidence that supposedly can't be provided. It's vast.
He packed up his circus and went
home. Hold on a second. It's vast, but they can't actually find any of the tips. Walsh, who did not respond to interview requests, has said in the past he's long believed in Toole's guilt. Evidence against Toole includes the testimony of William Mistler, who told investigators beginning in 91 that he was at the mall the day of Adam's abduction and saw Toole with Adam. He also saw Toole's black over white Cadillac and accurately described a dent on the car's back bumper. So does that sound like a planted witness? Because we have this one guy, and then we have a half a dozen other witnesses talking about the green van and Dahmer.
I mean, it's possible, Bruce. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, maybe it's like they only believe people that were also on cocaine like them. Who knows? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's...
Well, let's get crazier.
Maybe because he could identify the fact that the bumper was bent.
But hold
that
on
gave more credibility.
However, state attorney cold case investigator Mundy told the Miami Herald that Mistler's story changed and he wasn't a valid witness. Mundy, who believes Toole killed Adam, put more weight in the statements of a former cellmate, Bobby Lee Jones. Jones said Toole told him in 1982 at a construction site that he'd taken a child from Hollywood and said Toole remembered landmarks from Hollywood. So because he remembered okay, hold on a second. So this arsonist and storyteller who falsely confessed to hundreds of murders, so because he's been to Hollywood and remembers a few landmarks, that's enough to convince people that he's guilty? Like, what kind of clown show is this?
It sounds like a real circus.
So something that and keep in mind, this guy
is this the part where I'm supposed to start using the word bogus?
Well, keep in mind, hold on a second. Keep in mind, this former cellmate who may have been paid off, how do we know that he's like, so this criminal, he wants to take his word on it? So because Toole told him, he's claiming that Toole told him this, we have no evidence that he actually did, though.
Well, no, but like, I mean, if the guy tells stories, like, why wouldn't he tell stories to his cellie? Like, seriously, like.
I mean, yeah, it's like, yeah.
I mean, that makes no sense, does it?
Also, if he's concerned about like story rights, how do they know he wasn't talking about Hollywood, California?
Yeah, well, you know, and if it was story rights, like, how do you know that like he wasn't talking to like someone that was just like, yeah, I'm a film producer?
A 12-year-old girl reported that Toole tried to push her in a shopping cart at a local Kmart a few days before the abduction. Like, see, here's the thing. This is Kmart. That's a deviation from Sears. Now, here's the other weird part.
Well, wait a minute, Bruce. Wait a minute, Bruce. Sears later went on to own Kmart.
Touche. Here's the thing, though. Are you going to put more stock? Because let's say this 12-year-old is telling the truth that Toole tried to push her a few days before the abduction. Does that hold more weight than the statement of all of these people who saw Dahmer the day of, including picking up a boy and putting him into a green van?
I thought it was a blue van.
Yeah, blue van.
I thought you said green van.
Whatever. Blue van illegally parked across from the police.
Let's just use van. Like, it doesn't even, like, it's so, like, ridiculous. It's like, it doesn't even matter about the color anymore.
I don't understand how you're going to put, like, let's say this 12-year-old girl was telling the truth. What if Toole did try to push her in a shopping cart at a local Kmart days before? What does that have anything to do with everybody identifying Dahmer the day of in that exact same location? I don't think anybody's disputing that Toole could have been at this particular Kmart days before the abduction. I mean, let's not even dispute that. What does that have anything to do with Walsh getting kidnapped at Sears and multiple witnesses seeing Dahmer do it? Like, what is? I'm not following, JR. I'm just not following.
Well, I don't think anyone with like a brain is following. This must be like, you know, only for people that like go to Harvard or something.
But not only that, police believed Toole wasn't even at that Kmart. He was on a Greyhound bus to Jacksonville that day. So even that 12-year-old might have been mistaken. After America's Most Wanted ran an episode on Adam's abduction in '96 focusing on Toole, Mary Hagan reported seeing Toole inside Sears with Adam. Her '96 description of Toole's mannerism, including his cock-headed smile, and of Adam's beach sandals, led Mundy to believe there could be a prosecutable case. Okay, so there's one witness, but there's multiple, or whatever, 2 or 3, but there's way more witnesses who saw Dahmer. Toole died in prison shortly after Mundy's interview with Hagan. On his deathbed, Toole confessed again, but wouldn't say where he put Adam's body. Toole's niece told Monday, but Toole denied killing Adam when Hollywood cold case detective Mark Smith. How many Smiths work at the Hollywood police? No, seriously, how many Smiths are there?
Apparently a lot. Like, I don't know. I'm still getting over the fact that it took place in Hollywood.
So cold case. So Toole denied killing Adam when Hollywood cold case detective Mark Smith visited him shortly before his death. And Smith wrote that psychological counselors found Toole incoherent. We're not there yet. We're not at the point to say he's the one who did it, Smith told the Herald after Toole's death. However, during the 2008 press conference, Smith said he agreed the evidence was sufficient to have arrested Toole. Now retired, Smith did not return messages left at his home and workplace. After Toole's death, no new evidence surfaced, Wagner said in 2008. Investigative errors. But when Wagner contacted prosecutor Morton earlier that year to discuss clearing the case, Morton, despite noting problems due to investigative errors, agreed in writing that there was probable cause to arrest him, but prosecution would be difficult. He wrote, quote, Keep in mind that having legally sufficient probable cause to believe that someone has committed a crime does not mean that an arrest should or must be made, end quote, Morton wrote to the Herald last week. Morton, who declined reporters' requests to review the new evidence in person, added that exceptionally clearing a case without charges is a police decision. He was merely stating that the state attorney's office understood the decision, he wrote. Morton also said Dahmer witnesses do not change his opinion that Toole was the only suspect for which probable cause existed for an arrest. But the case, first released in 2008, shows that Smith and Mundy pursued Toole almost exclusively. If a witness hadn't seen Toole, he or she was dismissed, like Vernon Jones, who told Mundy in '96 that he had played in television baseball with Adam that day in Sears. Jones, then 9, remembered that Adam was batting with the bases loaded when a man behind them beckoned. Jones said he glanced back, taking his eyes off the game. Adam smacked a grand slam. Miffed, Jones moved to another game. When he looked up, he said he briefly saw Adam and the man leaving, possibly hand in hand. In '96, Mundy showed him a picture of Toole, but that wasn't the man. Mundy wrote that Jones couldn't say for sure that day he was there or if the boy really was Adam. Jones, a karate master from Cutler Bay and former youth crime prevention speaker, told the Herald it was Adam. I've never doubted it was him. Shown a picture of Dahmer, Jones said it could be the man he saw. He wasn't possible. Jones said the experience in Sears changed his life. He used the anecdote in numerous crime prevention speeches. At least 1 to 200 chiefs of police around the country have heard my story, but Hollywood never called me. What does that tell you? So,
well, it means that the far. Well, you were talking. I thought you were talking about Hollywood, California, there for a second, Bruce. Because the story's so far fetched. Like Hollywood, they wouldn't pick up a story like that.
No. Hollywood. So this guy goes around talking about crime prevention, and he's specifically talking about the Walsh case. And he gives this speech to all these police departments. They all know about it, and yet the Hollywood Police Department isn't curious in the least about this kid who possibly could have been the last person to see Walsh, one of the last confirmed sightings, and they're just not interested.
Not to mention, like, it's one of the most high-profile child abduction cases, like, in the history of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely top 5. I mean, I think the Lindbergh baby will always be, like, number 1.
Oh,
but I mean,
that's actually been requested. We actually have to do that one.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely, like, a lot to that. But, like, in addition to that, like, Adam Walsh is definitely top 5.
Yeah, I mean, it launched America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, well, it also, Walsh has gone on to do, a couple different shows. I mean, technically, if you really want to, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children was founded around, the Walsh, family. I think he invented that. So, yeah, I would say so.
So
I don't know, Bruce. I don't know. That MK Ultra shadow people theory is starting to really gain some ground.
Well, hold on. Before we get into that, let's look at independent.co.uk. In this article, did Jeffrey Dahmer kill the son of America's Most Wanted host John Walsh? Investigator who interviewed Dahmer in prison convinced that he was responsible for the '81 murder of Adam Walsh in a case that shocked America. Retired FBI agent has claimed that Jeffrey Dahmer murdered the son of America's Most Wanted host John Walsh. Investigator Nir Pertel told Radar Online compelling evidence that linked the serial killer to the '81 murder of 6-year-old Adam Walsh had been bungled by Florida police. Mr. Pertel interviewed Dahmer in prison after he was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of 17 boys and men in Wisconsin. He said if he did admit to it, he would be killed in prison as a pedophile, Mr. Pertel told Radar Online. My impression was he was admitting that he did it. Adam was abducted from a Sears department store in the Hollywood Mall in Florida in '81. His severed head was found 16 days later in a canal 120 miles away, and the case became one of the most infamous child murders in American history. In 2008, Florida police announced that they had concluded that convicted serial killer Otis Toole was responsible for the gruesome murder. Toole had convinced of the killing before recanting and died in prison in '96. Police failure in the search for Adam and lost evidence meant that the police were unable to secure a conviction against Toole. We tried to make sure Adam didn't die in vain. We have always said if his song is to continue, then we must do the singing. This was John Walsh's post on Twitter. Investigators found that Dahmer had been living in Miami Beach at the time, and 2 witnesses placed him near the Hollywood Mall on the day of Adam's abduction. Mr. Pertel was one of the first law enforcement officers to arrive at Dahmer's Milwaukee apartment after his arrest and says he immediately saw parallel to Adam Walsh's murder. Dahmer publicly denied any involvement in Adam's murder, and authorities eventually ruled him out. Another point, too, I mean, Dahmer did seem, he was kind of close with his dad in those, final moments. He even did interviews with him, etc. Do you think he just didn't admit it because he, yes, killing teenage and adult men, I mean, yeah, that's obviously horrible, but it's even more horrible to decapitate, a toddler.
I mean, that's true, Bruce, but so is drilling a hole in someone's head and, injecting them with hydrochloric acid.
I would still say doing that to somebody that's, older than a toddler isn't as bad as decapitating a toddler, but maybe that's just me. But anyway, in a 92 interview, Dahmer said, "I've told you everything. How I killed them, how I cooked them, who I ate." Why
that's one way of putting it.
Why wouldn't I tell you if I did it to somebody else? Again, the theory is, he doesn't want his parents to have to listen to that. Mr. Pertel's claims come on the heel of a new Netflix dramatization of the Dahmer saga, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. A journalist who broke the story in 91 spoke to The Independent earlier this week about what the series got wrong. The murder of Adam Walsh stunned America and led to a total overhaul in the way missing child cases were investigated. Speaking about his son's murder in 2008, John Walsh said he was convinced that Toole had been responsible. "The not knowing has been a torture. The journey is over," he said. "A lot of horrible memories in this police department looking for that little boy. Now I think it's only fitting that it ends here in this police department," end quote. And do you think that's just a desperate need for closure on John Walsh's part?
Probably. I mean, I mean, the Walshes went on to have another son. I kind of almost feel bad for him in that I think, to a certain extent, he probably grew up in the shadow of his brother's disappearance. I definitely think that the family needed. I mean, it also John Walsh got divorced as a result of that. So I think he never got over that. I don't think he'll ever get over that. I think it's so. I mean, yes.
But I think there was a little bit of a rush to judgment because if it was Dahmer and then Dahmer's dead, Toole's dead. I mean, it's just more hanging in the in the unknown, and he doesn't want any part of that. So it's just more convenient to side with the police department.
That's possible. I mean,
even though the police department is possibly the worst police department ever based on our review.
What do you mean possibly?
Well, I don't know. There's some backwoods departments out there. Anyway, John Walsh founded the Adam Walsh Child Reform Center with his wife, Reeve, and became a tireless advocate for missing persons cases, appearing in dozens of TV commercials, warning parents to not let children out of their sight. He went on to host America's Most Wanted from 1988 to 2012 and was responsible for apprehending more than 1,000 criminals. In 2006, on the 25th anniversary of Adam's disappearance, George Bush signed the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act, which established a national database of child sex offenders. Toole, who was found guilty of a slew of unrelated killings, lived near the mall where Adam disappeared. Later, behind bars, he confessed to Adam's murder several times, but Hollywood police refused to believe him, as he had a reputation for trying to claim murders which he had no association. So this is a problem because you have the serial killer. So supposedly he did really kill some people. I mean, I haven't looked into those specific cases. I don't know if those were bungled as well. But let's assume he really did kill a certain amount of people. He has a history of claiming hundreds of victims that he wasn't responsible for.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, that is tough. That is tough. It's hard to say. We're going to have to do a Tool podcast.
I don't know if I even want to deal with that Tool.
Yes, ask you a question, Bruce. Do you think that, like, Jeffrey Dahmer was actually, like, an alien that was beamed down to Earth, and that, like, you know, he was, like, exploring, like, human anatomy by dismembering and injecting people with, like, random substances, and that's why he had all the luck he did, because he had some sort of charm pendant?
Is it possible that Dahmer and Toole both happened to be in that mall at that time?
It's possible. It's also possible that they were in collusion with each other.
That's an interesting theory. But what about
I mean, like, why not? Like, water seeks its own level, right?
But what about his the guy Toole's one-eyed lover who was locked up in Maryland?
He's locked up in Maryland. I mean, you know, like, I don't know. I mean, like, Jeffrey Dahmer, like, was with other guys. I mean, like, you know, I mean, like, who knows? Like, if he had, like, you know, a lover that, like, you know, was, like, only had one eye, I mean, like, you know, in the land of the blind, the one eye might be king, but, like, you know, like, Dahmer had two eyes. So, like, I mean, you know, like, and he was also into guys. So, I mean, I don't see, like, you know, how that could be instantly ruled out. You know, like, it's just like a monogamous relationship. I mean, you know, like, it could be that, you know, like, he had a mistress, so to speak.
So here's a few more details from yourtango.com. FBI agent claims Dahmer was behind the murder of John Walsh's son Adam. Like, how much stock do you put into those that investigated Dahmer and were amongst, you know, part of, you know, looking over the apartment and involved in that investigation, who believe that Dahmer really is responsible for Walsh? I mean, do you put more stock in their opinion than the opinion of the highly esteemed Hollywood, Florida Police Department?
I don't know, Bruce. That's a really tough one.
All right.
I
Well,
mean,
I'm just gonna read a brief excerpt from this article regarding these detectives here. So Pertel was one of the first investigators on scene after Dahmer was captured in his apartment in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, July 22nd, 1991. Dahmer's apartment had been littered with human remains, including human heads. Dahmer is believed to have killed 17 men and boys. Quote, when I arrived on the gruesome scene with a local detective, we both looked at each other and whispered, Adam. Pertel said, noticing similarities to Adam's murder in Dahmer's apartment. So this was before he even interviewed Dahmer about this.
yeah.
So his first thought was that this could possibly be related to Walsh. And is that without even knowing that Dahmer spent time in Florida? Because if he didn't know that yet, he immediately is already thinking Walsh before he finds out that Dahmer had been in Florida and Dahmer had access to this blue van.
That is pretty interesting.
And before all the witnesses came out and said they saw Dahmer.
Again, interesting.
The FBI filing supported Pertel's claim. The decapitation and disposal of the torso of Adam Walsh is again the type of behavior that Dahmer continued to exhibit in Milwaukee with his victims, the document stated. Jeffrey Dahmer closely matches the description of the person who abducted this young child. This is directly from an FBI report. Investigators also found that Dahmer had been living in Miami Beach at the time of Adam's murder, and 2 witnesses placed Dahmer near the Hollywood Mall on the day of Adam's abduction. I think it was actually like 5. The former FBI agent also claims Jeffrey Dahmer insinuated he killed Adam Walsh. After Dahmer was sentenced to life in prison for the brutal murder of 17 men and young boys, Pertel questioned him about Adam's murder at Wisconsin's Columbia State Prison. He said if he did admit to it, he would be killed in prison as a pedophile, Pertel said. My impression was he was admitting that he did it. So his response is, that's kind of weird. So let's say you ask him if he did it. His response is, if I admit to it, I would be killed in prison as a pedophile. If I admit to it. Those are the words.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, he also said on that other occasion that he had nothing to do with it. But why would he also make this statement?
Yeah. Yeah. That is very interesting, Bruce.
Also interesting is that when Otis Toole confessed to the murder of Walsh in October 93, Hollywood police initially did not believe him due to his reputation for falsely taking responsibility for murders. But apparently they decided to show him all the crime scene photos anyway with the mile marker, and then they believe him after that. and signing over the story rights. At that moment, all of a sudden, they believe.
Yeah. Yeah. God bless the people that live in that city.
Yeah, this is really bizarre.